I joined the cult Bethel School of Supernatural Ministry out in Redding, California, so now let's talk about activations. Like I said in previous videos, your school is Monday through Thursday and you meet at the Civic Center. You're there the majority of the day. Once a week you meet with your revival group, and then once a week you have your activation, which is what I'm going to get into now. Your activation is pretty much you serving the city. So I have this email, I found it yesterday. It was September 14th, 2012. So this was a long time ago, but they sent a list of different activations that you can choose from. So you were supposed to send your top 5 choices. I sent my top 5 choices and I did not receive any of them because they were popular ones. So they made me repick and I still did not get my choice, and I got put in the activation community. In case you're curious about what some of the other activations are, they had one where, like, if you are a talented artist, you could do a mural for the city. That was one. One going to Bethesda. It looks like it's a place for disabled adults. So go there and like do arts and crafts. City project activation, that is like going by the Turtle Bay Museum and picking up trash. This one's kind of interesting. Culture of celebration through creativity and dance. So this activation is going to be going into schools, parks, and block parties to dance. They will release God's presence, bringing healing and transformation. I just imagine a bunch of Bethel students like going on a street and dancing and thinking that they're doing a lot for the city of Redding. This one is actually crazy. I did not know that this exists. It is Elementary School Extreme Kids. It says, we have the opportunity to connect with kids in 12 of Redding's public schools as a group called Extreme Kids. Extreme Kids works with existing after-school programs provided by the student school. We are allowed to show up and share the gospel with every child that signs up for the club. So that's kind of crazy. This is like public schools and we're like sending Bethel students in to probably prophesy and preach to these public school students. There's also a couple here that are just straight treasure hunts, and then there's also some that are at drug rehab places and partnering with other local churches and stuff like that. So I ended up getting community, the one that pretty much no one wanted. It was like the overflow one, and that's where I ended up. Community is described as investing in the lives of the people in the community beyond the 4 walls of the church, focus on bringing transformation by creating relationships with neighbors and becoming a local neighborhood pastor. Host block parties that involve the whole neighborhood, share the gospel, love people, and release signs and wonders. So here's what that actually looked like. I was put on a street that was on the bad side of town. There were about maybe 8 to 10 of us that were assigned to this street for the entire year, every single Thursday. And we were just supposed to go and bring heaven to earth on this street. The street itself was interesting because there was only people on one side, okay? The rest was, there was nothing over there except for a bus stop. And then over on the very end of the street, there was a thrift store. So technically all of that was our playground to release signs and wonders. This was one of my least favorite parts of Bethel. I absolutely hated my activation because essentially we were just pestering people for an entire year, and I did not have a good relationship with my leaders. So my leaders were just second-year students. They were like young students who were just a year ahead of me, and they were leading this activation group. They wanted me to go knock on a bunch of doors, and they always wanted me to go to a new place, and I did not want to do that. I felt like we were treating people like projects. They kept telling me that we should be doing treasure hunts. So let me remind you what a treasure hunt is. A treasure hunt is when we sit down and we ask God, like, who are you trying to talk to? And we try to get a word of knowledge from God about who he wants to talk to that day. So you might say like green shirt, like God told me someone with a green shirt. God told me someone in a wheelchair. Okay, and then you try to go find your treasure because obviously Bethel students are trying to get people out of wheelchairs all the time. So ableist, so offensive. I feel bad for anybody who is disabled in Redding because literally if you have a cast, if you're in a wheelchair, I am sure you are getting people pestering you to try to pray for you, to heal you 24/7 in Redding. So once you have your treasure map, your treasure list, you are supposed to go and find your treasure. So walking around the thrift store, knocking on doors and seeing like, is anybody in these apartment complexes, do they match any of the characteristics that God told me that they wanted to speak to them that day? So while treasure hunting was not the name of my activation, that's kind of what it was, mixed in with also just trying to help the neighborhood. Here's what I ended up doing. I found a single mom. Okay, I saw her kids playing outside like I think the first week, and I saw them playing outside. I went up to the mom and I said, could I babysit your kids every Thursday? And she said yes. So I ended up just becoming a babysitter, and I told them, like, listen, I would rather do something practical to help this mom rather than just like go and pester people and give them prophecies, and that just felt more right to me. So my entire year I just played hopscotch with these kids and like played tag, and I'm gonna find some pictures and post them here. So this is me with one of the kiddos, and yeah, that's all I did all year, and I'm still friends with the mom on Instagram. I feel really, really bad for that street. Like, imagine you are living in an apartment complex and then all of a sudden you find out that every single Thursday there are going to be people pestering you. Yeah, it's not great. In my second year, I got my number one choice activation, which was the healing rooms. So y'all are gonna want to hear about that because that was crazy. And I'm trying to not jump around too much because I have so many stories and I don't know like in what order, because I also have personal stories. Because right now I'm really just sharing like the structure of the school. So maybe now I'll start telling some of the like personal stuff. So next I'm going to talk about my revival group. It is one of the most nuanced parts of my Bethel experience. There were so many highs, and I really enjoyed my revival group pastor, but there was also some very cringe bad things happening as well. So next I'm going to talk about my revival group.